Ergo Proxy is a dark science fiction anime that deals with psychological and sociological topics and themes. It features some great animation, decent enough character designs, and a plot that doesn't get too out of hand until the end, so you may be wondering why I hate this. Well, I have 4 major issues with this anime. Number 1. The characters in Ergo Proxy aren't particularly strong. Number 2. Ergo Proxy is far too pretentious. Number 3. Ergo Proxy has some terrible filler. And number 4, which I consider to be a cardinal sin with many anime, Ergo Proxy has so much wasted potential. To give some context to this review before I explain my problems with Ergo Proxy, I think I have to explain the plot. There was an event thousands of years ago which nearly destroyed all life on planet Earth. Now there exists only one refuge, a domed city called Romdo. In this city, humans live peacefully with their mechanical servants called auto-raves. Order must be kept in the city, so the number of people who can enter is limited, and there are not many immigrants allowed inside from other parts of the world who somehow survived in the outside atmosphere. Even with a controlled number of inhabitants, there are still problems in Romdo, like the Cogito virus that infects auto-raves and makes them self-aware, which presents a problem because they can do whatever they want since they're no longer bound by their programming to serve humans. Now one day there are a set of gruesome murders reported that attract the attention of an inspector from Romdo's intelligence bureau named Riel Mayer and her auto-rave entourage named Iggy. While at the crime scene, Riel is attacked by a creature who she swears up and down was neither human nor auto-rave. The rest of the anime is spent figuring out what attacked her and who's really behind it all. Now allow me to elaborate on these issues I have with Ergo Proxy. Ergo Proxy has a rather mediocre cast of characters. First up is Riel Mayer, a no-nonsense inspector for Romdo's intelligence bureau. Her grandfather is Donov Mayer, who is the regent of Romdo. Because she has a well-known family name, she can come off as entitled sometimes. She's often manipulative as well around certain people. While I do think she's a passable character, she didn't come off as credible enough for me to lead the entire anime. If she had been a supporting character in something else, she'd be pretty awesome, but here she fails to make an impact. Up next is Vincent Law, who I absolutely detested. Vincent is an immigrant who gets accepted into Romdo. He's mostly a gigantic pussy who suffers from amnesia. I can't really say too much more about him without getting into spoiler territory, so the next character I'll talk about is Pino. Pino is an auto-rave infected with the Cogito virus. Her character is actually fine for what it is, and I thought she'd get annoying, but she really didn't. Other characters include Raul Creed, the head of Romdo's security bureau, and Daedalus Eumeno, who's the director of the health and welfare bureau. Raul himself was an alright character, while Daedalus himself was unbearable at times. My next issue is that Ergo Proxy is constantly trying to be smarter than it really is by throwing in a bunch of philosophical monologues here and there. These could have been alright if given depth and explored, but Ergo Proxy just throws them on the screen and leaves them to die a slow death. Another way Proxy is pretentious is in the way it tells its story to its audience. I like getting mindfucked sometimes, but Ergo Proxy goes out of its way to do this to the point of frustration. There's nothing worse than watching an anime where a character is babbling on and on about God knows what, and you're watching all of this while being bored out of your mind. Now don't let what I'm saying fool you. I understood every last bit of this anime and the twist at the end as well. My problem is that there's complexity and then there's unnecessary complexity, which Ergo Proxy is plagued with. This segues right into my next problem with this anime, which deals with the stupid, terrible filler. Without delving into spoilers, we're gonna go from least horrendous to most horrendous. The least worst filler episode is episode 15, which is called Nightmare Quiz Show. Now fans of this series may say that this episode can't really be categorized as filler because there's important exposition here, but let me tell you people, there's about 3 minutes of actual worthwhile exposition and 17 minutes of what the fuck am I watching? To be fair, I actually kind of like this episode, probably because of MCQ. He was funny and kind of reminded me of a character you'd see in BACCANO, which is always a good thing. The middle worst filler episode is episode 19, called The Girl with a Smile. I really saw no reason for this episode to have existed, and not many others do either. In the series, there's a journey from episode 8 to episode 18. In episode 18, there's a large revelation, and you finally think the anime is about to pick up, but episode 19 shits all over that when it takes you to a Disneyland-like place called Smile Land and has little to nothing to do with the main plot. Now, the worst filler episode is none other than episode 11, called Into the White Darkness. In episode 10, there's another pretty big revelation. So in episode 11, what they do is hammer you over the fucking head with this fact while going on and on with the unnecessary banter and unneeded mindfuckery. Instead of attempting to develop a character, or even put this particular character in the episode in a situation that could have been mildly interesting, you place him in a situation where he himself is being screwed with mentally. The audience watching this has to assume that the character is a complete idiot for not accepting something he just accepted in a previous episode. These bad filler episodes ruin the pacing of this anime, and pretty damn badly. My final problem with Ergo Proxy is basically a combination of everything I've said up until now. When I finished Ergo Proxy and thought of the plot, I actually thought it was a very good story. This series had some great animation and shots of certain characters that I definitely consider artistic. The designs of the characters themselves and the setting of the anime are also just fine. Although I do have to mention that while I thought the concepts in Ergo Proxy definitely came into their own, I always wished I was watching Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex instead of this. I didn't even think Standalone Complex was even that great, but the concepts there were much better fleshed out and much more appealing to the viewer. You could tell Ergo Proxy was trying, but it struggled with the way it wanted to convey its messages to the viewer, as it attempted several times to be experimental and shove gimmicks in there, but it all resulted in one big mess. Essentially, Ergo Proxy was chicken salad on paper, but chicken shit in execution. Now there's one last thing I'd like to mention about Ergo Proxy, and that is the ending. I've seen many fans of this series call the ending pure garbage and things of the like, but I actually thought the ending was fine. I didn't feel it was rushed like some endings, and it ties up most of the plot points nicely, even though there are some things that are left completely unexplained and up to the viewer to figure out. Now, for my final rating on Ergo Proxy. I have to admit, while I was watching this, I was very angry. I've had some days since I finished to think about it, and it doesn't seem as bad as I initially thought, but all the complaints I made out of anger are still completely valid and hold up in my eyes. I'm actually somewhat reluctant to give out this rating to this, because it did have pretty big potential, but Ergo Proxy gets the final rating of bullshit.